Hi everyone, welcome back to Sabers. Today's video is one that I'm really excited to get into. I've actually covered this somewhat on my channel before, but never in depth, so that is going to be the Yuma lightsaber from Return of the Jedi. This is one of Luke's lightsabers from that film, and it has a really interesting history to it, an interesting lineage, and I'm really excited to kind of go over some of the finer details of this. We're going to talk about who created this hilt, this replica, I should say, as well as who did the painting and the weathering, and then also the history and lineage of the real hilt that this very accurate replica is based on. So stay with me and we'll get right into it. All right, so I've gone ahead and set up the desk cam here. This is a closer look at this lightsaber. This is the Yuma. Y-U-M-A. And to start off, I'd like to just talk a little bit about why it's called that. If you are a bit of an outsider as far as that particular knowledge goes, it doesn't really make sense from the outside looking in. The Star Wars movies have a long history of filming on location, particularly for the Tatooine desert scenes. So Tunisia in A New Hope, as well as locations like Death Valley in California, and in Return of the Jedi, one of the places they filmed was Yuma, Arizona. And so this hilt was used on set at the Yuma, Arizona filming location, which was where they filmed the scenes for Jabba's palace sail barge scene. So the Yuma is the hilt that Luke is using during his fight with the henchmen, the sail barge henchmen. The reason for this hilt was because they filmed this a little bit later on. So the stunt hilt that they used for the main lightsaber fight in the film with Darth Vader is what we refer to as the V3. The V3 was one of Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan Kenobi stunt lightsabers. And the V3 was repurposed and used as Luke's dueling saber, while the V2, which was Obi-Wan's other stunt saber, was repurposed and used for Luke's belt hanger for most of the film. However, when filming the scene where Luke is fighting the henchmen, they needed something that would let the special effects designers go in later and put a blade in where Luke is swinging his lightsaber and slashing up the henchmen on Jabba's sail barge. But they didn't want to use the full-length blade because they didn't want to smack the actors, essentially. So they used a short blade, which I actually have with me. So here is the short blade that they used. Let me see if I can kind of get the whole thing in frame here. But essentially, it's this very small blade. You can see the whole thing fits in the frame here. This end here essentially inserts into the hole here. So if you've ever seen a Luke Hero lightsaber, that's what this is for. And we'll talk a little bit about the connection between this and the Hero in just a minute. But basically, this inserts into this hole here. And then you've got a set screw here that lets you tighten it down. So you can swing it around and have a short blade on there that's maybe, a foot, 14, 15 inches. And that way, when you're swinging it, you have a clear trajectory of where the blade's going, but you're not actually hitting the actors that are playing the henchmen. So they needed a hilt for that. So what they did was they took the V3, which was used for, like I said, some of the stunt scenes with Vader, and they made a cast of it. They made several casts of the V3. Some of them were resin and were used as belt hangers and other various props. And then this particular hilt was a metal cast of the V3. And this was one of the only ones, if not the only one, created in metal. I believe it was the only one. So you can see that there are some similarities and differences between them. They took the Graflex clamp off for the casting process, and so you don't really see the Graflex clamp itself. it didn't capture any of the details from that, I should say. I believe that the Graphics clamp was present. And that's part of why you have this sort of relief here between the booster and the, what we'll call the clamp section. But yeah, the placement of all of the different idiosyncrasies of this do suggest that it came from the V3. And then after it served its purpose as the scene for Jabba's sail barge, it then became it had another life that it got taken on. So they needed a hilt for the scene where Vader is turning Luke's lightsaber over in his hands when Luke surrenders towards the end of the film. And he says, "I see you've constructed a new lightsaber." And the primary belt hanger they'd been using up to that point was the V2, which doesn't look new. If you're familiar with the V2, it looks a lot like this. It's got this kind of dirty weathering on it, and they did this to the Yuma to make it kind of match what was being used up to that point, which was the V2 and the V3. So it's very dirty through here, very much has some similarities to the V2. But when Vader is turning over the hilt in his hands, he says, "I see you've constructed a new lightsaber," and you get a good close-up view of the saber. And I think that part of their reasoning here was, if the lightsaber is a new saber, it can't look like this, or the V2, or the V3. And so they took this saber, they cleaned it up, they got rid of a lot of this, aging and the issues with where the paint had chipped off and all of that. They cleaned it up, they repainted the neck, they put some paint on the control box here, put a clamp card in here, and then this part here, we believe they actually used this same metal nub, but they just kind of trimmed it down and made it look like the black buttons you see. And this actually it was turned into the saber in that scene. And then if you're familiar with that saber at all, you'll know that later on, in a deleted scene, they were filming later on, and the scene didn't end up making it into the movie, but Luke is in the cave working on his new lightsaber, and the saber he's using in that scene is the same one that Vader has, but even more cleaned up and even more refined, and has even more greeblies and things on it. It's got little arrows that light up and all of that. And that was, once again, this lightsaber just further cleaned up. So the metal cast of the V3 had, several different iterations that it appears on film, but it's the place that it kind of ends its life is as the hero that we all know and love. And so that means that the dimensions of this hilt are very, very, very similar to, for example, the Mom of All Heroes, because this is I should have mentioned before, but this is the Dave P. Yuma, and Dave P. makes extremely accurate hilts. He makes a very accurate V2, a very accurate V3, very accurate hero. And I see you've constructed a new lightsaber variant, Yuma variant, and so this is a Dave P. Yuma, and the dimensions on it are going to be essentially exactly the same as that of his hero or the mom or any of that. So you'll see that, for example, here you have the exact same rings as what are present on the hero, right? You've got the thin and the thick rings kind of going back to back. You've got the same sort of neck going on here, right? You've got a, the gap or kind of relief that's normally present on the V2 and V3 necks is not present here. And I don't know enough about the casting process to tell you why, because it was cast from the V3, but I just know enough to tell you that even though that line on the neck isn't there, it is still, we know it's been cast from the V3. And then that's why I mentioned this sort of nub at the end of the emitter. That's on the hero as well, and there's even a hole in it on the hero, and that set screw is on the hero. It's on the mom of all heroes. And so that is all because of this little blade. And that is just kind of a remnant of that. So Luke's emitter being kind of wonky and actually kind of protruding is a remnant of the stunt that they used, basically. And the V2 and the V3 also, of course, have that. But some of the things you'll notice about this are, like I said, the weathering is very similar to the V2 and the V3. A lot of the blackening you see on the V2, a lot of the paint chipping that you see, a lot of the paint chipping you see in between on the grip here, and the two screws being visible. The tri-ring positioning here is also the exact same as the hero. You can tell it's just barely to the left of the control box. So not quite in line. But this is, like I said, from Dave P, so it is a static replica, and it is solid aluminum, so it's very heavy. There's no way to install electronics in this. There's no way to even access the inside, because there is no inside. From here to here, it is a solid piece. It doesn't come apart anywhere, except for, I'm sure that the control box was a separately machined piece and that it does come off. And of course the tri-ring is a separate piece. But this hilt was offered by Dave P. He does runs occasionally of like old runs he'll redo. So he will be doing this one again at some point, I'm sure. But the hilt was painted by Shameem, who used to have a really well-renowned YouTube channel where he would talk about sabers. And he is still present in the saber community, working on projects and things that he enjoys. But this one I purchased from Shameem. It is painted and weathered by him, so he did all of that. You can buy the Dave P kits either pre-done or as a DIY, and so Shameem bought a DIY and painted it very accurately. A lot of these like paint chippings that you see are what appear in the photos that we have of the Yuma. And so, yeah, I'm really impressed with both the quality of the actual hilt and of the weathering and paint. The Yuma is really interesting to me because it is the starting point of the hero. The hero that we all know and love, and that has reappeared time and again, in Return of the Jedi, in Book of Boba Fett, The Mandalorian, the sequels. There are so many different iterations of it now, but this is where it started. And so it's really neat to go back and be able to see kind of what it started as. So I will just kind of move this across here and let the camera really get a good view of what this hilt looks like. And again, notice all of these weathered paint chippings and things like that. And those were done by the production team, I believe on purpose, really, to make it match the look of the V2 before they decided to go for a cleaner, newer kind of look. So the lineage of this is fascinating. It starts off here, it moves on to the I see you've constructed a new lightsaber, and ends as the cave hero. So it exists in 3 different separate iterations, but they are all the same base metal hilt. It's all the same one, just with different paint jobs. So they painted it several times, and it took on several different lives. So I hope this is a very interesting video. Again, Dave P does do these runs periodically. He did do one last year, so I don't know if he has any of those left, but I'm sure that there are some floating around on the secondary market. And if you aren't able to find them, I'm sure he will do them again. He does do commissions, but this one was not painted by him. But I'm really, really pleased with this. Just remember, again, these are static, so you won't be able to install them, which, you know, depending on what kind of sabers you collect, that may be a problem for you or not. I know a lot of people have a lot of installed Luke sabers anyway, so having one that is more of a niche saber like this one, it's okay if it doesn't turn on, because it's not the one you'd probably reach for anyway. It's just nice to have for the lineage and story of it. So thanks so much for checking this out. As always, I really enjoy making these videos for you guys. Going over the Luke Return of the Jedi hilts is particularly my favorite. So whenever I get a chance to talk about that, the lineage and the history, I always really enjoy that. So thanks for bearing with me on that. Leave a comment. Let me know what your favorite Luke Return of the Jedi lightsaber is, or outside of that, what your favorite lightsaber in general is. If I haven't done a video on it and you'd like me to, I will try to get to it. And until the next time, thanks for watching. May the Force be with you.